Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today, we've got Danielle Hayden on the show. Danielle, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. Really looking
Great to
forward to this
have
conversation.
you. Same here, same here. And we both did our homework. We listened to each other's podcast to
We
get an
did.
idea and a feel for the show. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick for us?
Yes. Danielle Hayden. I have been an entrepreneur for 7.5 years now. I came from the traditional corporate accounting background. I was working as a CFO, making all the investors, board of directors, you name it. I was making them rich by, getting them all of their financial information so they can make,
Right.
all the business decisions they needed to make to grow these big businesses. And I said, enough is enough. Entrepreneurs need this. We never think we're big enough. We need it. We don't know how to use it. We don't, QuickBooks is confusing, accounting is confusing. And so we all just retreat from it. And I said, I am breaking this mold. I am transforming the accounting profession. And so jumped into Kickstart Accounting, and it has been the most amazing journey I could ever imagine being on, because I get to do just that, work with entrepreneurs just like yourself and help them, know their numbers so that they can, make business decisions. And, in the entrepreneurship world, it's not all about getting rich like it was with investors. It's about having the life of our dreams, which is even more amazing.
Oh, I love that point that you just added there, because I just had this conversation the other day with someone, and I think I saw a meme and I posted it, like, having a big house and a nice car is no longer really the ultimate flex. The ultimate flex is like time freedom and flexibility and lifestyle freedom. Those things are great, but if you're having to slave away and work 60, 70 hours a week for them, you're kind of like chained to those versus being able to choose whether or not you want to purchase those things and having the options to be like, I don't feel like doing anything today. That's the most empowering thing. Or yeah, like yesterday, I had a conversation with some guy at the gym. I saw his truck was wrapped and he was in real estate. And I took him out to lunch. I was just like, you guys getting lunch after this? Like, can I join you?
Yeah.
And I had the flexibility to do that because I had no appointments until later in the day. Whereas if I'm like, oh gosh, I have to run back to my job, I wouldn't have the flexibility to do that. So I love that you just added that point. And then today we're going to be talking about planning early to grow a sellable business. That is extremely important. And a lot of us don't do a great job of that. We kind of we keep everything in our head. We don't create processes, right? I'm sure you see this a lot with some of your clients that come to you and they're like, where do we begin?
Yeah. It's amazing, and I think it's almost a mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of us kind of stumble into entrepreneurship, and I hear it all the time. Like I started doing this not knowing what it was going to be. And over time I caught momentum. And now that I have momentum, I realize that maybe I do have a sellable business. Whereas if we can start thinking about that at the beginning and always be thinking, you don't have to sell your business. So sometimes I say that people are like, whoa, I'm having
baby.
Fun.
Yeah. I'm doing this for life. Right.
Yeah. But it's about having that exit strategy and being able to think that way and setting yourself up for whatever the possibility might be. We're seeing people who are just walking away from their business because they think it's too much work to sell it. So they're just walking away and letting the business go. And I don't want to see anyone do that.
Right. If you spent all the hard work and effort building it and getting clients and having that source of revenue, you might as well do something with it instead of just letting it fizzle out. Right. So you're able to help your clients to actually make that happen instead of just not seeing the options available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's putting in all of the background pieces. So it's creating the foundation of a business that will help us think about that exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're thinking, oh, look, I have a lifestyle business and I love having that lifestyle business, I'm going to do this forever. It is putting the processes and the backbones in place so that if you decide that you want to take that year-long trip with your family that you've always wanted to take, or, look, there's a million ideas out there. I don't need to think of them for you, right? Whatever it might be, your business has all those backbone pieces, and you can step back as a CEO and just say, what do I need to high level monitor? What numbers do I need a high level monitors? And I know that all the background and all the backbone pieces of my business are running.
Definitely having some sort of scorecard or language of your business where you can look at the numbers and know, because a lot of us don't know the numbers. And then you're looking, especially when you start, you're like, I don't know, I'm just trying to get a client or close a deal. I'm not worried about my expenses or anything just yet. And when you start to have those numbers, like a little screenshot almost, you can just look at that. And then in 2 seconds, how's business going? What do I need to actually like dive into, or who do I need to delegate things to? So whenever people come to you looking for help on building a sellable business, what do you usually have them start with? Is it documenting all their processes, or is there something else?
This is going to sound so amazingly simple. I ask them about their bookkeeping, because that is where it all starts. If you think about selling your business, what somebody is coming in to buy is the finances of your business, right? They want to know where your customers are coming from, where are you spending money, what do you need to have in place in order to keep that business growing and sustainable. And so the first thing that any buyer is going to come in and do, feels like kind of a bigger corporate word, but they're going to do a lot of due diligence. And that's important for the buyer to do their due diligence in your business. And so in order for you to be able to supply all that, you need to have foundational bookkeeping. I say this all the time. The bookkeeping is the foundations of everything that you do in your business. You cannot build a house on a swamp. You have to have a solid foundation to be able to make all those other business decisions and to be able to back up everything that you're doing in your business. Does that feel so amazingly simple?
That does. And my fiance does that for a couple of clients, like one-off clients. And I'm always like thinking in my head, like, I mean, is that important? I mean, now I know it is. It's the foundation.
It is. Yeah.
But a
Yeah,
lot of our clients have difficult things, right? A lot going on. So it's important for them to know their numbers. I love that you said that, because it helps me realize how important that is.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell her I said, you're welcome.
Yeah. I'm going to be like, babe, you're doing bookkeeping. Okay. I know how important this is. Like, I won't bug you. I just think she's like clicking around in QuickBooks and exporting something. I'm like, I know how to do that in Excel.
No, it's so important. It's amazing. I remember back in my corporate days, somebody said, that's just accounts payable. You're just paying the bills. And I threw my hands up. I'm like, what do you mean just paying the bills?
That's everything.
It's everything, right? Like the where you put that transaction, when you say to QuickBooks, this is what I'm paying for. It builds your financial statements and it creates the actual financials. So, that's so important, how you're categorizing things, and then how you're managing your cash, right?
Yeah.
Cash is king, cash is queen, right? And if we don't know the bookkeeping behind our cash to see where it's coming from and where it's going, how can we say, this is what I'm double downing on, and this is what I need to stop doing? Or, wow, all the signs are pointing me towards selling my business, or bringing on a partner, or bringing in investors, whatever that might be. You don't even know if it's not there.
Guilty.
Yeah.
And me being in real estate, I mean, I guess I have a lot of referrals and stuff like that. So a lot of what I do, for example, I don't know, maybe this relates to some kind of sales roles. It's a lot of like business development and meeting random people. And like I went to lunch yesterday with some random dude who was in real estate, because I'm like, this could be an opportunity for us to work together at some point, versus I guess some of the investors I know who spend 10 grand a month on marketing. They know their ROI, they know their numbers a little better. So I kind of shoot from the hip. And I think a lot of my entrepreneurial friends can agree that they're like, I don't really know where the money goes. Like, I kind of look at the expenses, but I love that you said it builds the financial statements. It helps you with the cash flow management, because that is something that even as you continue to grow, you're going to have those pains of cash flow management. Like, when do you put money aside for this? And how do you know what to invest in or double down on, is what you said, right? You don't really know if you're kind of shooting from the hip or shooting in the dark.
Yeah. And we talk about this a lot with clients, because you never want to miss out on a lunch, right? Or a networking event or an opportunity to connect with other entrepreneurs. And I am guilty, right? Like I love that. It
FOMO.
gives me
Yeah,
so much energy.
me too.
And there's been times that I would have never known that one meal was going to have such an impact on my business. Maybe not today. I
Right.
met a woman, her name's Jenna. I had lunch with her like 3.5 years ago, and she was just starting her business. I was like, "Oh, all right, fine, I'll go to this lunch." Her and I have collaborated on so many events, and we've done so much together that if I would have been like, I don't want to spend the $25, but that's why I say it's long-term financials. So
Yeah.
you don't have to be an investor spending tens of thousands of dollars and understanding your ROI in every single area. But what you can do is just record every time you go to lunch and you put that to networking lunches, or every time you go to a networking event, categorizing that as a networking event. And I even like to go a little bit deeper in which group I'm networking with or what conference that I went to. And so when you categorize those things into the income statement, now you have the history, right? Like history books, you can see the history, right?
Yeah.
Now, as I start to plan on what I'm going to do next year, I can look back and say, okay, this is how much that cost me. And over the years, here's how many referrals I got from that. Do you ever look at that, like where your referrals came from?
I do. And I started asking that question. Anytime someone who reaches out and I don't know who they are exactly, I'm like, can I ask you, how did you hear about me? Was it from social media? Did you hear me on my podcast? Was it a referral? Because like you said, as you look back in the past, I can be like, hey, this one person sent me 3 people. I need to like send them more thank you cards or kind of throw in a nice little gift card, send them a birthday
Yeah.
card, right? They're special because they're going out of their way to make sure that they send you business. So that is extremely helpful to do. And just
Yeah.
ask that simple question, right? Like, how did you hear about me? It's simple. Like you said, obviously a lot of the simple things we forget to do them because they're so simple to do. They're also simple and easy not to do.
Yes. And it's simple to write a thank you card, and not a lot of people do that
It
anymore.
makes
So
a huge difference.
I love
Yeah.
that you said that. Um, it is the simple things, and it is taking that extra step. We use Calendly in our business, and so anytime somebody books an appointment, we ask, how did you hear about us? And so I'm able to look, and this is not even an accounting function or how to sell your business, little tangent,
Yeah.
but just being able to say, okay, year to date or over the last 18 months, right? So if I just look at 2020, 2021, I can look and see, where did every single lead come from? And know, was it the podcast? Was it me guesting on somebody else's podcast? Was it referrals? Was it a networking group, a lunch? And then you can tie those things back to your financial statements, because you know how much you spend. Well, you, for the most part, know how much you spend on your podcast plus your time.
Yeah.
And then you know how much you're spending on networking lunches or going to networking. And so you can back into that number.
Right.
So by recording your expenses in your accounting system and then keeping track of this, you don't need a fancy CRM system. Anybody like I know somebody's listening, like, I cannot pay.
I don't
for
have the
a
right
CRM
system.
I do it in a Google Doc, folks. I do it in a Google Doc. And then do that analysis. You can really be intentional about your time and effort. So
Yeah, I use Calendly as well. And do you guys mainly use like a single link? Is that what you do? You drive everyone to book a single intro call or something, and that's how you tag them all?
yeah.
Awesome. I love that. And I heard that call to action in your podcast. I'm like, oh, I love Calendly. I use them all the time.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's my favorite. It keeps me
just
organized.
adding that, because you can export. I think I was just playing around with the functionality. I haven't used it all. I feel like it's like driving a Ferrari 20 miles an hour. Sometimes, I use a little bit of a software, but not fully. And so there are capabilities to export that data and store it, and maybe in your Google Doc or Excel sheet or whatever you're using, you can start to tag and see, okay, these are all the people that met me from podcasts or referrals or came from this person or this event. And how much more should I spend going forward? The forward look is extremely important, because still, if you're looking and you're shooting from the hip and you don't really know, how do you know what to plan for the next year? You're kind of just going into it blind again.
Yeah. And that I think is the biggest thing that I see entrepreneurs do is that they're afraid to look at the past. And so they always end up still shooting from the hip. And so by being able to map out that historical piece, then you can put forth your energy. Because if you're trying to have a lifestyle business, we have a client who she's doing the RV thing, and she's killing it. And we just did a budget session with her this week because we needed to know exactly how, not just her money, but where she was going to spend her time for the next 12 months. Because I have to schedule my travel time to get from place to place, because I have life to experience in the middle of my business.
Right.
So it's planning both of those. And so she has all those historical finances to be able to say, okay, now I can do this.
That's so cool. It's almost like predicting the future, because like you said, history, I mean, we always hear it, history repeats itself. And so if you can find the trends and things that happened before, it's very likely that they're going to happen again or similarly. And so you don't want to make the same mistakes. Obviously, you learn from your mistakes. If you don't learn from them, you're going to keep repeating them and losing money, losing clients, losing opportunities, or maybe even wasting time spinning your wheels, which I'm guilty of that. I think a lot of people who are very like, people pleasers, like, I just want to be on Zoom calls all day. We'll figure everything else out later. And then my accountant, has a nice conversation with me of like, dude, you need to like get a business account and put all your expenses on one card.
Yes, absolutely. Do that. Listen to him.
I didn't do that for like a year, and it was hard. I'm like, I think I used 5 different cards for this when I was getting started. And as the business grows, you figure things out. But I love that you said, if you just plan it correctly from the beginning, then you won't even have to worry about this. Just do it right from the start, and you save yourself a lot of time and trouble later.
Yeah. And if you are somebody who's listening and you've already been in business and you're like, oh shoot, I've commingled all year. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, no shame. Start today.
You've all
hear
done
this.
it.
Yeah. You've heard this podcast. We said, here's your call out, clouds are opening up. Stop doing it. And then, you can in QuickBooks. So we use QuickBooks for all our clients. So when somebody comes to work with us, first thing we do is we open a QuickBooks. And there's a really easy way to just say, all right, this transaction's personal and this one's business. So even if you commingled all year, no harm, no foul. However, if you're looking to ever sell your business or creating your business so that it is capable of taking on loans, investors, possibly selling it, any of those things, you really need to have that separated from your personal so that it's really clean. You have really clean bookkeeping. We had a client call. It was just yesterday, actually. It was really fun. She's been a client for a long time, and she never had any intention on selling her business. And she loves what she was doing. She's a wedding planner, but over time, she fell in love with other aspects of her business, and she liked helping other people in her industry. And so, how do you start to think about that, right? Like maybe you have a course, a podcast, in-person conferences, like whatever it might be, you might have multiple things going on in your business, and you always have to be thinking, what if I only want to do that one thing moving forward, right? What if that sparks my energy and that's where I want to spend all of my time moving forward? If you can keep those branches really separate, you can bring in investors, you can bring in operators, you can sell your business, because let's face it, life changes. And if we can keep it clean from the beginning, we can welcome those other opportunities.
Absolutely. I love that. And like you said, with the investors or even just having the clean books in general, it just helps so much to be able to go back. And I'm thinking back to previous years when I started my business, and I would go in and I export all of my different accounts, put it in Excel. It would take me an hour to like line up all of the things. Cause right, every different bank account has different columns, and maybe this one has a memo and that one doesn't. And now they're not aligned. And so it became very difficult to pinpoint like, wait, what was an expense for real estate versus my personal stuff? And now that I just have one account and everything's in one place, it's like, okay, cool. It's so easy. I can just export that one thing. I don't even have to worry about it at all. And anybody who wants to look at it, I can just share that with them, and they can tell me, whatever they need to tell me, like, hey, you're spending too much on this, or I'm not sure, like budgeting conversations. That's another thing that many entrepreneurs could use some help on, I'm like guilty. I'm raising my hand over here. Like, what do I do? I just had this conversation yesterday. Like when I make a commission check or I have a, $15,000 week or something, like I don't know what to do. So I just like keep the money there for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm going to think about what I want to do. Like, how much do I put for savings and investments? And, cause it's inconsistent. So do you have any tips or advice on that for business owners? Cause I think I know a lot of real estate friends who struggle with that.
Yeah, I would look at trends. So again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I'm sorry.
History,
but if we look at the trends, so if we can see on average, what are we? So it might ebb and flow, and you might say, Danielle, I have no average, but you do have an average. And if you can't get an income average, you can get an expense average. So how often are you doing those networking lunches? What other how about your mileage, your car payments? How much are you paying yourself? What do you need for you to personally live? So take the average of all of those things. And I believe every entrepreneur should have 1 to 6 months worth of saving. I know that's a big range. Start with 1 because that's doable, right? Yep. And if the pandemic taught us nothing, we should probably all have 6, right?
Right.
And so start to save, but by taking that average. So look at the last 12 months. What was your average expenses per month? Now multiply that by 6. That's your end savings goal. But let's just take it 1 month at a time and save for that 1 month. So when you get that big check, you can say, all right, I need to put in, 15% for taxes in a tax savings account. I need to put, X amount into the operating account so that I know that I can pay my operating expenses next month. Contractors, anybody that you're working with, website design, hosting, like the whole gamut, put that away in an operating expense account. And then you can start to dial that number in and see, but don't forget, you got to monitor how that worked. So do that this time. And then next month say, okay, how did that work? Right? What can I learn from that? So should I do that again or should I alter those percentages?
I love that. So you're just constantly reviewing your numbers. And I built this into my morning routine because of that reason, since I'm very good at just burying my head in the sand and just ignoring things that I don't want to look at. But now I force myself. So this may be helpful to someone in the audience. I pull up all the numbers. I see my recurring business expenses, my average income for the last 3 months. So is it going up? Is it going down? What do I need to do more of? Right. So the trends in being able to manipulate the data or play with the numbers to see what, not to manipulate, not to change it, but to maybe create pivot tables and charts in Excel to create trend lines and see what's actually happening. And maybe you can do all that in QuickBooks. I'm not sure. Does it have cool chart functionality and you can see
they have cool charts, but we usually export it and do our own cool chart.
Yeah. And I tell everyone, you can learn Excel, pivot table, just look up pivot table and line graph. And in 20 minutes, you can create some pretty cool stuff with data that you can export from any software that you use.
Or talk to your bookkeeper, talk to your accountant, talk to, I'm a big proponent of, do I have to do everything? Right.
I love that. Same here.
Where's my energy going to be the most valuable? I can tell you, my team will laugh when they hear this. So we've been using Calendly and DocuSign and all these other systems, and they've been trying to convince me to go over to Dubsado. So finally I broke down. I said, we can explore it. Let's start to move over to Dubsado and get things automated. Well, in Dubsado, there's a lot that you can do with the contracts and being creative. I can go down a rabbit hole in Canva because let me tell you, that is not my specialty. I should not be in Canva. And all of a sudden, it's hours later, I feel exhausted. I'm like, this wasn't a good use of my time.
And you're on the same thing in Canva that you started with, right? You're still on image one.
This is awful.
Right. I've definitely been there before. And so I love what you said there too, how you were like, hey, just where's your energy? Monitor that. And even before you take it upon yourself, figure out, hey, is this something I need to do? Can I just have my accountant? Maybe they can do this in 5 seconds and just add it to the next invoice for whatever services that they're already doing for me.
Right.
And they'll probably do it better too.
I love that you talked about your morning routine and including it there. We talk a lot about a weekly dashboard for monitoring.
Yeah.
And it's just a dashboard that our clients get that has a snapshot of all the financial metrics that we think are really important for decision making. And people are always like, why do I need to see that weekly? Like, God, that sounds so daunting. But how easy is it to make a business decision when you can see how much money do I have at the bank? Who owes me money? Like, what's coming in? What's going out? Where are my sales year to date? Am I hitting my goals? Am I not hitting my goal? Right. So it makes making a decision really, really easy because you know where you are. And so if the next shiny object comes, you can be like, whoa, well, I got my dashboard from my accountant today, and it doesn't sound like that's a very good idea.
Yeah, that's cool. I really like that idea of having that weekly dashboard. And I think maybe they might talk about something like that in Traction, just having a scorecard, and you have, level 10 weekly meeting with your team and what's working, what's not working. But like you said, when something happens, you see that red light, green light, yellow light, I don't know, whatever system you use, you can easily know, do we have the money to make this investment based on our historical numbers? Has making such an investment worked for us in the past? Instead of just blindly, like I keep going back to shooting from the hip, because a lot of us kind of make these gut, like I think I want to spend $5,000 on this thing and let's see how it goes. Like a mailing campaign, if you're doing direct mail marketing and you only do it for 2 months and you don't see results, so you quit. So you didn't do it long enough to make it successful, right? If you're just doing that, there's no way to know, what's working and where to focus your energy and effort.
Yeah. And I think we're all really guilty of it. And so if you're using Traction, I absolutely love that system. And so this dashboard that I'm talking about can really become part of your KPIs, right? So they talk about all the KPIs that you should be monitoring on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And so this becomes one of those KPIs. And when you look at it for 90 days, we've had ours weekly for the last 18 months in one Google sheet. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. Really incredible to be able to see, right?
Yeah, that's a powerful document. I mean, anything that you track, I've been going, I guess, haywire, not haywire, but like what's the word I'm trying to think of? I've been very happily exploring Excel. I monitor everything from pages read a day to workouts a week to meditation, right? So you can create charts to monitor any aspect of your life and see, like, how is this working for me? Is meditating twice a day draining me or giving me energy? And same thing with your business, like is putting on 2 networking events a month. I'm just thinking about pre-COVID, but maybe people are going back to networking events. But I know a lot of businesses would get a booth at that monthly networking event and they'd spend $500 or $1,000 for that table. And did it really pay off? Like, and you're there for 3 hours and you got to clean up. Like, is that the best use of your time, energy, and resources? Or is this other thing that's working really well for you, like doing more podcasts from the comfort of your home office, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting as we start to see clients, the world open back up, and the theme in 2020 was, wow, your expenses have really gone down because you're not traveling anymore, right? And even if you're going to a conference, it's not as expensive to go. And then all of a sudden, the world's opening back up and we see people traveling again and going to these conferences. And it is causing a big pause for our clients. Like, wow.
Do I really have to go? Like, oh my gosh, it's $3,000 to just fly there and stay, right?
Right. Yeah. And I want to comment too, I love that you talked about tracking your personal stuff too. I think there's a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs who think their business has to be so completely separate from your personal. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs we're all trying to really be our best selves, and part of that personal development and those things that you do, like working out and meditating and drinking enough water and all those things, like those are what help you be a really amazing entrepreneur. And instead of separating them, I encourage people to actually put those together. And so I'm not talking about your accounting. I'm not.
Definitely don't do that.
Those have to stay separate. However, when you think about things like your KPIs, I have a personal scorecard that I keep that is, my whole life, because let's face it, our business is a major part of our life, and it's okay to track both of those together. So I just really wanted to comment on that.
I love that. And I do the same thing too. So for my scorecard, I mean, it's kind of spontaneous in a way. Like I told this example of seeing the truck, and we talked about this earlier in the episode, seeing the truck, and then I kind of like crept on the Instagram page, and I saw the guy, and I'm like, hey, is that your truck out there? Like, I'm in real estate too, blah blah blah, let's get lunch. And in my scorecard, I count those business development activities as like 2 points towards my daily goal of 5. And so while I was open to that, and I didn't know if he'd say yes or not, and we ended up going to eat, I did count that as 2 points on my day, because I'm like, cool, I made a new connection, we're friends, or we're new Instagram friends or following each other. This could turn into something. And I could even associate maybe how much did that little lunch cost, right? Like I paid for him and the other guy he works with. So just being able to meld those two together, that is extremely important, because like you said, we spend the majority of our time in our businesses, and it becomes our life. It's like our baby in a way. So it makes sense to keep those.
I like the point system. I might take that.
Yeah. How does your scorecard work? If you don't mind sharing it, I'd love to hear it, because like I'm always trying to tweak it and make it a little bit better,
Yeah. Well, so we have the dashboard, and then I have like my personal. So, and I love that. I don't have meditation on there. I do Wim Hof. Have you?
Oh yeah. The Wim Hof breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll keep track of on a daily basis, what days I'm doing the Wim Hof, what days I'm doing cardio, what days I'm lifting, and then what days that I'm doing things like this, right? Because does podcasting give you energy or take away from your energy?
Right.
And what I've found in tracking that, the days that I've left actually feeling amazing, right? Like I made an impact today. I feel energized. I'm talking a mile a minute to my family and telling them about my exciting day. It's the days that I'm connecting with other people. I'm coming on your show, or having people on my show, or connecting with people at the gym, or having that possibility of being long-term friends with somebody, and keeping those connections. So I think I'm going to add some of your points to kind of what I'm tracking.
Cool.
Because I don't think enough about how are we just staying in touch afterwards, right? So those people that you took for lunch, like what comes after that, and how we continue to develop that relationship.
Yeah. And then just not being so structured. This has been something that's helped me. I mean, the scorecard thing has helped me to know, what am I doing? What feels good? Like you said, I can track and see, man, I feel freaking awesome today. What did I do? Oh, I did 3 podcasts, and I went to lunch with some random dude who was like really cool. Like or dude or dudette, either or. Yeah. But it just so happened to be like a real estate guy. But what gives you energy, and the things that drain your energy, you can delegate them, you can hand them off. And so I've been going with the flow on a lot of it, as long as I'm hitting my 5 points for the day, and they're weighted differently, right? If I get a signed contract in real estate, I'm giving myself 3 points, because like that is the surest way that I know I will be making money next month, right?
There you go. Yeah.
If I go take someone to lunch or something, I still give myself 2 points, because like that's a new connection. And if I make a social media post, like a static Facebook status, or hey, do something great, or I post a motivational meme, that's only 1 point, because like, cool, I got my name out there, someone's remembering me, I show up on their feed for 2 seconds, but it's not as impactful as taking someone to lunch. But it can be something as simple as having guests over. We had a couple over for dinner on Saturday night. We honestly played Nintendo Switch for 3 hours together, and I counted that as 2 points, because I'm like, hey, we played Mario Party, and this guy's in real estate, his wife's in accounting, just like my fiance. So that we solidified that relationship. So even though it was not really networking, we built a solid relationship, and we may do business together eventually,
Yeah. I'm definitely going to look into this point system. I think by thinking of it that way, it allows you to do more. I'm in a business group called EO here in Cleveland, but it's a national.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
National group. I absolutely love it. And those connections and the people that you meet at those types of events, you can kind of set it and forget it, right? I go to the event,
right?
I had a great time, right? They're my
stay
EO
connected,
friends.
but bye.
I'll see you next month, right?
Right.
But I gave myself so much credit, because last time we like left with a date on the calendar that we were all going to dinner again, and I'm like, okay, this is how you move the needle. That I am not tracking. So
Yeah, just doing a great job of following up and being the one to put things together, for example, that goes a long way. And with technology, we have no excuse. Like you can go to an event and you can meet people and literally say, "Hey, I'm going to create an Instagram group chat for us to just stay in touch. And how about we do a once a month Zoom call to all touch base?" And people love that because you're the one connecting everyone. You're able to stay in touch and top of mind. And like you said, it's so easy to just set it and forget it and meet somebody and say, "All right, see you next month." But if you take the initiative to keep that conversation going, that's when people really remember you because they're like, "Gosh, I like this Danielle person. She makes me feel good. She always adds value to me. She never asks for like anything in return, or, you're doing the go giver mentality, and business flows your way and they send referrals your way. And it's like when you're not looking for it, it comes to you more easily. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. But I think that we can go back to the tracking, just to bring it
Tracking. Yeah.
full circle to tracking, because, I know you're giving yourself a point for the Instagram posts. Those types of things are really draining on me. Right. Like, so
Right.
for somebody else,
Maybe you get 2 points for it.
yeah. Right. Right. So, and maybe you've never gotten a lead from social media. Right. So
Right.
we see
Right.
a lot of business owners. This is something I hate to see, but we see people paying a lot of money
For
to,
social media stuff.
yeah, they're paying people to do their social media for them. They're paying for courses and coaches, and they're draining a lot of money.
And
And
they
then,
don't even like it. Like you said, it may be draining to them.
yeah, yeah. And then I say, well, how much revenue, like going back to where'd you get the clients? So on your scorecard or on your KPIs, when you look at, or your income statement, when you're looking at the clients and where they came from, did you get one from that? And some people will just say, look, it's branding. I have to do it. And that's fine. But you need to be able to say, look, that's the amount of money I'm spending on just branding. So,
Right.
um, I think it can be a red flag when we're doing it all ourselves, to forget about where we're spending our time and our energy. Your time's not free. And so you can think about, that's another big area that we get asked about from clients a lot is, how do I allocate, like my time, how is that allocated in a financial statement? So when I go to sell my business, they know what positions they have to fill, right?
Yeah.
So if I go to sell my business and I'm acting as the marketing role and the sales role, or I'm acting as in my business, I act as the CFO. So if they have to fill those roles, how much is that really going to be to that company? And so to start thinking about where you're spending your time, and how much you would actually have to pay somebody for that. It was an eye opener for me to think, okay, if I plugged this role into my income statement, it really costing me this much money to fill that role. Would that be the same? Would I be okay with spending that much time or that much money? Because that's your time.
Yeah, that's very true. I heard that on another podcast recently that any real business, I think there were 4 or 5 roles or positions. So whenever you start, you're doing everything, your marketing, your sales, your follow up, right? Your maybe accounting and your Excel spreadsheet or whatever at the same time until you start to get the right people and pieces in place. But really, like you mentioned there, that's 4 or 5 people that you'd have to pay if you really wanted to make it a real true business. And there are costs associated with all of that. So it's easy for us to trick ourselves into believing like, oh, I'm making this much money and this is how much I'm worth and my dollar per hour. But if you were to really pay for those roles, like, are you willing to bite the bullet and make that investment? And are you seeing the ROI required to justify hiring that person? Or maybe you could have someone who does a better job than you, and you're just scraping along because you're the only person in your company right now. And you're like putting together marketing things in Canva, right? Like that's probably not the best use of our time. So we need to
No.
hire the right people if it makes sense.
Yeah, hire the right people and do the thing. We all have I call it our zone of genius.
I love
We
that.
all have our zone of genius, and spend more time in your zone of genius and hire people to do the things that you're not. It doesn't even have to be great at, but the things that aren't your specialty. So a lot of people go into entrepreneurship because they're creative, or they love real estate, or they're in sales, and then all of a sudden they're expected to do everything. So bring in people to be able to help with those different roles. Um, and I think people are surprised. So I hear this a lot from clients, that they had a mindset that it was going to cost them so much more money to hire the person to do their marketing, or they thought it was going to be more expensive to hire an accountant or a bookkeeper, or whatever it might be, a financial advisor. And so they kept on putting it off because they're like, it's going to cost me too much money. I can't afford it. But when they actually started sourcing out that role and plugged that into their financials, they were like, wow, okay, I wouldn't be as profitable, but I get a lot of my time back, and I might still make a profit. So experiment with that. Again, I'm going to like bring it full circle to the beginning of the podcast. When you have your bookkeeping, right? So when you have the
The
simple foundation put in place.
So excited to talk to my fiance and be like, bookkeeping is the best. I didn't realize
Yes.
this.
I wish I could be a fly on the wall.
She's gonna love you, trust me.
when you have that foundation, right? So when you have that bookkeeping put in place, and you can export the income statement for the last 12 months. So anybody who's like, how do I figure out if I can afford these things? Export the last 12 months and start to plug it in. So let's just say you hired that social media marketing manager for $1,000 a month. Plug that in there. What would that look like? Maybe you hire that bookkeeper at, our prices are $250 per month, start at $250 per month, but maybe you hired a CFO for $750. Maybe you need an accountant, $1,000. But go source those out and say, all right, if I did pay somebody to do that for the last 12 months, what did it look like? Like, would I have still been able to make money? Would I still have been able to do the things that I wanted to do? And I bet you'd be surprised at what that could have done for your life, right? Because maybe you hired that social media manager, and that time that, maybe you're like me, and Instagram post will take you freaking forever because you agonize over it. And so you get 30 minutes of your morning back every day because you don't have to worry about the Instagram post, and think about the business that you get from freeing up that 30 minutes. Or maybe it's your money in the morning, right? Like that morning routine, having somebody else who just sends it to you rather than you having to pull all those numbers. Maybe you can meditate 2 times a day, or spend an extra 30 minutes at the gym.
And that's an important point. Exactly. Like it's not just that you're saving money or saving time, rather, to focus on more business stuff. Being able to save that time to even just relax more, or not work on the weekends if you don't feel like it. That is very empowering if you have those right pieces and the right people in place, where maybe you make 20 grand less that year to your bottom line, but you freed up 20 hours a week, whatever those numbers are. And that's huge for me, because I'd rather have my lifestyle and freedom and be able to choose to go to the gym at 8 a.m. or at 11 a.m. because by design, I don't ever have any calls before 1 or 2 p.m. And so,
oh, that's good. I do 10. Opens me up. I do 10, and I like that.
Yeah. And for example, the flexibility piece, one of my friends is a general contractor, and he wanted to meet up at a property that he's flipping because I want to do a deal with him. And he's like, hey, I'm going to be there at 9 a.m. And I'm kind of like, gosh, I never do anything that early. And I kind of want to go to the sports recovery place and use the tubs and the sauna before I do that. But because of this schedule and the freedom, I'm like, I don't have any calls, until 1 anyway. I think this was my first call of the day. So I was able to go meet with him, go to the sports recovery place, eat a quick bite, and jump on the call. And so when you create your schedule that way, and Calendly is very instrumental in making this a reality, once you set your boundaries and your rules, you have that freedom that you desire, right? And things are still happening in the background with your team, enabling you to do those things.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs, I've heard, so I heard this mindset thing 7 years ago when I started the business, and I was like, okay, that's pretty woo-woo, guys. I came from corporate, so I'm like, mindset, what?
Yeah.
And over time, I was like, wow, okay, this is a thing, right?
It's real.
So, yes. Every time a client gets on a call with me, they're like, I can't believe it took me so long to get here. I can't believe I'm here. My mindset, I don't want to talk about money. Anyway, so the point being, it's just, it is such a real thing in entrepreneurship. And I think there's a little bit of shame in entrepreneurship that we think we have to do it all, and that,
Right.
it feels,
You feel bad to not do it all.
yeah, or like have a hobby, like, oh, I'm gonna have this hobby while somebody
Yeah.
else is working really hard on my business, and I'm just saying all this to give you permission that it's okay to have a hobby, right? It's okay to do something outside of your business. I think you mentioned on a show that you recently did, like you were joking about the cooking class. Um,
Right. Take up hobbies. If you like cooking,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
do it.
Mine was yoga.
I
Maybe
love
it's
yoga.
cooking, but whatever it might be. Um, yeah, so you're right. It doesn't have to be freeing up your time to just do more business. It can be freeing up your time to have that hobby, and just knowing that you don't have to do it all in your business, that you can let it go and that be okay.
That's so powerful. And that's been for me, I'm sure you felt this with the scorecard you use for your personal and your business life, is just the scorecard helped me to finally have that off switch where so many entrepreneurs, we feel guilty. Like, because I have so much time in the day now that I don't have a day job, I need to be doing stuff all day to really capitalize and push my business forward. And I never had a stopping point, right? Like this is my home office, the
Yeah.
living room. I could go watch TV, but like I need to get stuff done. I need to hustle, right? So now that we have the scorecard thing, even with yesterday's example, I'm like, cool. I'm just free flowing at this point. Hey, let's get lunch. That's 2 points on my scorecard. Cool. That turns into a podcast. That's 2 points in 2 weeks when we do that. And when you go with the flow like that, but have some sort of like rule book in a way or guideline, it's like playing bowling with the barriers up.
Oh,
Like
I'm really good at bowling when we put those up.
Oh, me too. As soon as you take that off, a lot of gutter balls. But like,
we're supposed to join this bowling league. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have all the equipment and stuff for that or the desire. I go bowling like once every few years, but it always feels good when you hit a strike. But like when you have rules like this, like our scorecard, I think it's almost like playing bowling with the barriers up, where there's no way you're going to miss your target because like you can't hit gutter balls anymore when you have those guardrails. So I don't know if that's a good example or not, but that's how I feel
love
with
it.
my
I think it's
scorecard.
great. It's putting the parameters up,
Yeah.
that's, I'm going to use another corporate word. I'm sorry, but we, used to do a budget every year in corporate. And I know every entrepreneur was like, oh, punch me in the gut.
I know it's important.
But it's important. And that can serve as those guardrails.
Yes.
Because
Love it.
how many of us are just like, I need to hit, like, even if I hit my goal, it's still not enough. I'm going for more. But like, how about I hit my goal, right? Like, here was my goal. Here was my budget. And so if you can have your accountant, bookkeeper, whoever send you your financials compared to your budget, you could take a moment and say, yeah, that's so cool. I hit my budget. I'm killing it year to date over, what I thought I was going to do. And my expenses are in line. And so now this month I can decide how to spend my energy. And if not, right, because it's not always rainbows and sunshine. So I don't want to pretend like it is. So maybe year to date, you're under budget, right? And so you haven't hit your revenue goals.
Ramen noodle time, right?
Yeah. And so, but you know where to spend your energy. So maybe this month you're not spending as much time, at the gym or with those hobbies that we talked about. Maybe this month it is like, I am networking. I am taking people to lunch. I am doing as much podcasting as I can, as many social media posts as I can, right? Because I have to do revenue generating activities because I'm not hitting them. But when you set the budget, it gives you those guardrails to say, all right, I can celebrate, or I need to buckle down.
This is so cool. And so you said earlier that you send your clients a weekly scorecard so they know their numbers.
Yeah. We call it a dashboard. However, I should consider changing that to scorecard because I like that. But we call it a dashboard, and it's just it's a weekly snapshot. And so if we've set a budget with that client, it shows them how they're doing compared to budget, and just a quick picture.
Really, really love that idea. I'm about to email my CPA right now and just be like, hey, weekly dashboard / scorecard, like, or even monthly. I mean, heck, I'd like to have something proactive to look at and be like, cool. Like you said, you can use that to determine where do I need to focus on this next month, because are the numbers working? Am I doing better than I expected? Am I spending less than I expected? Instead of just kind of being like, I always feel guilty. That's my thing. And I know you talk about like money beliefs and stuff. I had this on a coaching call yesterday that I did, where whether I make a $10,000, $20,000 check, like I still feel like I don't know where to put this, and I don't know when my next deal is coming. So like, should I hoard it? And so I do nothing. And like, I have a hard time investing it back into marketing because I'm like, no, I need this. It's like a squirrel hoarding all these acorns, right? That's how I feel all the time. Yeah, without the plan. So I love that idea of just having a plan and knowing, because I don't have that scorecard for myself. Like, I don't know if I'm successful or not. I know the numbers, they look good. Like, okay, I'm doing better than I've ever done before. But to get rid of that guilty feeling, you have to know the plan and the numbers. So I can sleep at night knowing I'm hitting my numbers. I'm going to sleep at night just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So we usually do, for whatever it's worth, weekly dashboard.
Okay.
And that's just like that quick high level snapshot, and then monthly it's financials. So it's the whole income statement. I'm going to get, a little accounting term here, balance sheet, things, the cash flow, but find a bookkeeper and accountant that you actually like to talk to, because then you can call them and say, hey, what the hell do all these numbers mean? Yeah. Right. So when I say financial statements, people instantly are like, okay, I don't want to do this.
Headlights.
Yeah. But find someone you actually like and you want to call them. And so you can call them and say, hey, walk me through these numbers. But so at the end of each month, look at each of those numbers, compare them to the budget, right? So that's that's the monthly activity. And then quarterly, it's taking that high level CEO view. Have I paid my taxes? Do I need to pay anything in estimated taxes? Reset the goals for the quarter. Come up for air and really look at high level of what's working and not working. So you don't always have to be in the weeds. So sometimes when I talk to people, like, I don't want to be that far in the weeds in my numbers. You don't always have to be there. Just want you to observe them. And then once a quarter, say, okay, what do these mean as a CEO? How do I back up from them and look at it? So that's kind of the timeline that we usually like to take with clients. So hopefully that'll help somebody.
Yeah, very, very helpful. And gosh, time has been flying. I'm like, wow, we're already kind of at the end of like the hour.
I know.
So I just wanted to see.
I told you I could talk.
That's great. Because sometimes like I've talked to a couple of guests where like I'll ask them a question, they answer in like 2 words. I'm like, okay, so next question, like what do I need to think about? But
what else can I ask you? No.
Yeah, when you're really talkative, it helps to like fill the time. And I mean, we talked about the scorecard as well as you said here, weekly dashboard, as well as financials on a monthly basis. And then quarterly, you're looking at the high level. So you don't have to always be in the weeds, just observe them. All great pieces of advice. Is there anything we missed or any last nuggets that you'd like to share with the audience before we let them know where they can find you?
Just start someplace. I know you talked about you like to go to the gym. I'm a runner, and so I like to use this analogy. Nobody goes out and runs a marathon tomorrow, right? You don't say I'm gonna start running and I'm gonna go run a marathon tomorrow.
Unless you're David Goggins, I guess. If
maybe David Goggins.
He did it, I think.
Yeah. You'll end up with a busted knee. Yeah. But it's taking small action steps, right? So tomorrow you go for a walk. And then eventually you add in a job. And so I'm using this as an analogy because I know that numbers can feel like a marathon, right? I get it. I hear that from people. It is like, you might as well told me I have to go run an ultra with you, Danielle. Like, I don't, I can't do it. So I'm not asking you to run the marathon. I'm just asking you to take one step. So maybe you take one thing that we talked about today, save the podcast, right? You can listen to it over and over. Take one thing. Maybe it's the dashboard. Maybe it's just setting up the bookkeeping. Maybe it's just realizing I have to keep business and personal separate. Just take the one action step and you'll start to build momentum and it feels good. And when you know your numbers, like we hear from clients all the time, like, gosh, now that I know this, right? Growth feels possible. Like this feels cool knowing this, right? And it doesn't feel so scary. And so that first walk, that first jog is going to feel scary, but if you keep on taking action steps, when you finally show up to the marathon, you will feel ready and empowered.
That's the perfect analogy for it. And I've even heard that quote, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Mm-hmm. Or even how do you eat an elephant? Like one bite at a time. So just start small. You're going to feel that little win. It's going to feel good. Okay, cool. I stopped using 5 different cards for my business, right? That's a win. And
That's
then
a
you get
win.
QuickBooks and you have an accountant or a bookkeeper and you continue to stack from there. So Danielle, this has been so awesome. I loved talking with you and just, you have great energy about you. And I took a lot of notes, a page and a half, I believe, if I'm looking correctly.
Good.
So everyone, make sure to listen to this podcast multiple times if you need to. But where can our audience go to learn more about you, to schedule a call and let them know how they found out about you? Say this podcast, of course.
Yeah, say this podcast, please. I'd love to hear that. So kickstartaccountinginc.com is our website. I love to hang out on Instagram. It's Kickstart Accounting. You can see all my hikes with my golden retriever. Always posting pictures. We really try to post content for entrepreneurs that will really help make a mark for people and really help. I am here to be a resource for everybody. So come hang out with us on social, tell us what worked and what didn't work here. We actually have a dashboard. So I'll make sure you have the link to that to put in the show notes.
Sure.
So that if anybody's curious about that dashboard, you can definitely download that and use that in your own business. And if you're interested in hearing more about our bookkeeping, calendly.com/kickstartaccounting, you can book a call. And if you don't mind, I'd love to also give a shout out to, we just recently launched our own podcast.
Of course. Yeah. Give a shout out.
All right,
What's it called?
Cool. Entrepreneur Money Stories.
Awesome.
Yeah. So just telling stories about people's money journey. We talked about it. Money mindset's real, and we need to normalize the conversation around money. So, hopefully one day I can get you on the show. And
would love to.
I
still have a lot to grow. I've come a long way, but I feel like, gosh, I'm just, it's like when you climb the mountaintop and then you realize there's another mountain. Like, that's how I feel. So
it's sharing that story,
Yeah.
It's all about normalizing that conversation. So
awesome. Well, thank you once again, Danielle. I really had a great time today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey everyone, Chris Bello here. Just wanted to thank you real quick for listening to the show, whether you're listening on podcast or YouTube or wherever it is that you may be listening. I wanted to make that quick offer about real estate help. I am in the real estate business. That is my main business and how I make all my income and my living by helping others buy, sell, rent, or invest in real estate across the nation. If you have any questions at all, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. Again, that is chrisbello.com/real estate. I'd love to see if I can help you out in my markets. And maybe if you're in a market outside of the ones that I'm focusing on right now, I'd love to connect you with a real estate professional who can help fulfill whatever needs or services that you are requiring. So again, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. A great thing is when I connect you with a vetted professional, if I'm not able to help you myself, is whenever a transaction closes, I'm actually able to get a referral commission. So that can be a great way of thanking me for my content. It helps to support the show, and it helps me to continue to spend time bringing on amazing guests, doing these great interviews, spending a lot of time on creating content and making sure that I can bring you the very best information that you need to grow professionally, emotionally, intelligently, and in every single area. We're all working on getting better at everything. And so my focus and expertise is in real estate. I'd love to be the one to help you again. If you're not interested in that, no worries at all. Please continue to listen to the show. Make sure you leave a review. It helps so much in getting new followers and sharing the message. And thank you once again for being a listener. I'll catch you on the next episode.